All right, final question here comes from Helen. Helen says, can you talk about the dangers of social media in two particular contexts? Stalkers and people who put their jobs at risk by silly things they post. Both of these are real issues. Helen, these are good. I'm glad you brought these up. There's lots of issues that come with having a kind of constant interactive interaction with basically the entire world in a wide scale platform with a homogenized interface. So everyone just looks the same to everyone else. Yeah, stalkers are a big deal. You get weird. Sometimes it's just trolls, but sometimes it could be more scary than that. Tim Ferriss have talked about this. Tim Ferriss has huge issues with this. People find him, they look up his address and real estate records. Crazy people get obsessed with him. So yeah, there's a cost to putting yourself out there. Now, Tim Ferriss is very famous, but why expose yourself to those costs? You know, especially if you don't get the fame and fortune that comes with that fame. Social media just allows you to expose yourself to those type of issues without the reward. And then people who put their jobs at risk. Yes, it's a big source of stress. It's a big source of stress. You hear these stories because they get captured and amplified and spread of individuals that said the wrong thing. Whatever. It was a joke that landed flat or was taken out of context, or they weren't at their best, and then their job is gone. Yes, there's a fear of that happening to you, but way more pervasive is the fear. I mean, that could actually happen, but the fear that could happen is just going to pervade your life if you've decided that I'm going to just post a lot of things on social media. I do not understand this cultural belief we had. It's something I've really pushed back on a lot, that like everyone has to be on these platforms using them. They don't, and most people shouldn't be. Most people should not be on Facebook or Twitter or whatever sharing their thoughts about everything. I mean, I know it presses some buttons, but people don't care. They're not following you. They don't really care. But you're giving yourself all these stresses by being out there in the public eye. I mean, I'm barely in the public eye, and there's like 80% of it I hate. Why would you want to do this voluntarily? I mean, this video camera makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm like somewhat uncomfortable with people knowing what I look like. I'm an academic writer. I like, books to come out. Now, I thought this was important because this information is important and it has to be broken up into whatever. I mean, we've talked about this whole thing, but why bring this upon yourself? The stress of weirdos that can now follow me. The stress of what if I say something wrong and I get fired? And again, whether or not that's actually going to happen doesn't matter. The fear is causing issues in your life. And there's other things, Helen, that you're not mentioning here that can be just as bad. The stress of seeing someone say something negative about you or what you said. We're not wired to handle that. We're wired to take that very seriously, because historically, when someone is saying, you're terrible, it was someone in our tribe, and it meant that we were probably doing something terrible. Now it's just sport on Twitter, but why expose yourself to that? This cultural idea that if you have to be on social media and it's weird if you're not, I think it's just crazy. I think social media should be a thing that, like, for some people, like, has a very clear use. But it's not a universal. It's not like if you're not on Twitter, it's deciding to ride a horse instead of driving a car, or, you don't own a television. I think it should be way more narrow than that. Most people don't need to be on there. Most people, at least posting on there, most people's life would be significantly less stressful if they weren't, for all these type of reasons. There's a lot of negative externalities to interactive social media use. And Helen, you are right to bring this up, because it's yet another reason why we should be way more careful about these technologies and be way more suspicious about the current cultural climate that, at least until a minute ago, basically made it seem like if you were not on all these platforms sharing your thoughts with the world, that somehow there was something wrong about you. Being in the public eye is a weird place to be. It's a fraught place to be. Don't throw yourself into that for no other reason than just people thought it would be cool to have that app.